Plaintiff Bonnie Powell was married to the defendant, but they divorced in 1989 after the defendant assaulted her because she couldn't have children. Bonnie claims they reconciled years later, but the abuse only continued, and the defendant started using crystal meth. Bonnie's suing her ex-husband today for a phone bill. Defendant Russell Jacobs says the reason he and Bonnie divorced was because Bonnie had a boyfriend on the side, and the two of them were stealing his money. Russell admits that he experimented with crystal meth after he and Bonnie reconciled, but he denies owing for the phone bill because he gave Bonnie a scooter.
Prove your case.
Well, originally me and Mr. Jacobs met in '87, where we fell in love and decided to get married. We got married in 1988. The marriage didn't last very long because on one of his drunken rampages, he decided he was going to punch me in my face and beat me up because I wasn't able to have children. So I ended up leaving him, and we ended up getting divorced in '89. We went our separate ways. I hadn't seen him for several years. In 2006, him and his mother came into the restaurant where I was working.
Did he ask for hot coffee?
Well, he said in my section, so I had to wait on him. And when I came up to the table...
Did he know it was your section?
I don't know.
Did you know it was her section?
No, I did not know it was her section.
You didn't know the coffee, did you, once she came?
Well, I did, but I didn't get no creamer with it, so...
You're lucky, that's all she did wrong.
Anyway, I almost dropped the coffee pot because...
On his head?
On the floor, because I had heard that Mr. Jacobs had passed away. So we talked a little bit, and he wanted me to get back with him, but I was married at the time, so I couldn't do that. So he went back on his way, and I went on mine, and then in 2007, me and my husband
You knew she
split up.
worked there. That's why you went there in the first place.
Your Honor, actually, I really didn't know she was working there, but there's a little discrepancy there with her story. We actually she had started messing around with me while she was still married, while she was working at the restaurant.
After seeing you at the diner?
Yes. Asked me to come back that night before she got off, and then she wound up starting coming to my house a few times.
That is not true.
That's why she didn't put the cream in your coffee. She was holding off to that night.
Yeah. Yes.
Putting the cream in your coffee. Go ahead. That's not true. All right.
No, he was coming into the restaurant, and I do admit that we did sleep together after a few visits. You know, he asked me to follow him back to his place, and I did. I wasn't, expecting anything to happen, but it did. I regretted it.
You went to his home?
Yes, I did.
At what time?
It was like, I got off at 11.
And you didn't expect anything to happen?
No, I just thought he wanted me to go see where his house was and where he lived and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you tell your husband that?
No.
Oh, I hope not. I hope you didn't tell him that lie.
But that wasn't the reason me and my husband broke up anyway.
But she made sure she hid that vehicle real well when she came over.
She hid the car?
Hid the car, so she knew what time it was,
Did you hide the car?
No, I did not hide the car. I pulled right in the driveway.
You call your husband and tell
him? No.
Because you knew you were doing wrong.
Yes, I did.
That's what makes me believe him.
I
that
agree.
You knew how did you say you knew what time it was?
Yeah, exactly.
But
go ahead, ma'am. When were you divorced from your most recent husband?
June
We're going to get to the phone bill you're suing him about shortly. When?
June 2007.
Okay. And did you all resume or continue seeing each other?
We started we got back together in February of 07, and we started living together.
Okay.
I lived with him until October 2008.
Hold on, ma'am. Sounds like you're breaking down over something. What's wrong?
Mr. Jacobs was very abusive to me in the time that we were together, from 07 to 08. I come home and catch him with his ex-girlfriend over there drinking beer, and this is supposedly somebody he hates, but yet he's sitting there drinking beer with her, and we got into a confrontation, and instead of him making her leave, he throws me across a chair.
Yes.
First off. And our marriage did end very abruptly, but it was because of the simple fact was, you know, she had her little boyfriend she'd go see in a different town. While I was at work, I'd go and I'd try to even stop at the liquor store to get me a beer. And they tell me, well, your checks are no good. Come to find out, I was taking care of him.
He's not talking about me. He's talking about the girl, his ex-girlfriend.
No, I'm talking about you.
No, you're not.
But it's just been one roller coaster after another. I wished I could have stayed being Casper and dead and wrote my own obituary so we'd never met again after that point. It'd been nice.
Let's get to her allegation that you were hitting on her, sir, that you threw her across the room.
The two ladies wound up getting into it, and I grabbed her by her house coat and I slung her across the recliner to get the two of them from fighting each other. But as far as me actually physically knocking her or anything like that, no.
Were you prosecuted for anything?
No.
I never called
Well, let me
them
allow
all.
him to give some background, and then we're getting right to the phone bill, all right? Go ahead.
She is like day and night at times. You know, she loves you to death one minute, next minute she hates you, you know, because wait a minute, I didn't have an extra 20, so she gave it to her boyfriend apparently.
That's when you were divorced.
Yeah.
Now, let's get to anything else you want to tell me before she lets me know why she's suing you for a bill.
She moved in with me after we'd met and everything, and she cheated on her husband, which I don't remember even, which husband was I? But
Which woman was that you had in her house?
no, that was my house. That was my house.
It was all right for her to bring her men there?
She didn't have no men. She never
You
left
know
the
what
home.
you just said she would have men
never left
that
the
she
home.
write checks to. She was tricking you out your money, giving it to another man. Treating you like a
Wasn't that
sucker.
bad, Your Honor?
How big of a sucker can you be?
Wow.
And then, ma'am, if you were taking his money, giving it to another man, you got him much worse than he had you. Let's get to the phone bill, ma'am.
Okay.
How does he owe you for a phone bill?
Well, Mr. Jacobs got put on house arrest in September of '07 for a DUI. And during the time of his house arrest, he let these people move in with us that was an ex-con from some guy he knew from prison. I found out that this couple was cooking and selling meth.
Him and the prison mate.
Yeah, the couple.
That couple.
Yeah, the guy and his girlfriend was cooking up and selling methamphetamines. When I discovered it, I approached Mr. Jacobs and I told him he needed to make these people leave because he was not only jeopardizing his freedom for being on house arrest, but he was also jeopardizing my life. And I didn't want to be a part of that.
What happened?
He told me if I didn't like it to get out. But before I moved out, Mr. Jacobs was like, well, if you're going to move out, can you leave the phone on until my house arrest is over? It was supposed to be over in December of '08. It was only going to be like a month and a half. And I was like, well, as long as you pay the bill, I'll leave the phone on with you for you because I don't want you to be in violation and go back to jail for 3 years. The night before I was supposed to move out, I come home from town. There's a whole crowd of people in the house. Mr. Jacobs is having a party, and one of the people that was there pulled out a gun and was threatening the ex-con, going to shoot him in the head over something, I'm not sure what. But I got scared and I ran to the bedroom with my dog. This man took all the house phones and all the cell phones away from everybody. Threatened them. You try to call somebody, you try to get out of this house, I'm gonna shoot you. I was scared for my life. I didn't know what he might do. Well, after everything calmed down, I didn't hear no yelling anymore. I came back out, only to find all of them sitting around with needles shooting up meth, including Mr. Jacobs, who had one sticking out of his arm. I was so mad that I punched the wall.
You a dope fiend?
No, I'm not a dope fiend. I've tried and experimented with drugs in my life. I'm not going to deny that. But, you know, it's like...
How often did you experiment with crystal meth?
I've tried it quite a bit back in the day.
You were a dope fiend. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I had the phone shut off December the 5th, and I got the final bill. I tried several times to contact Mr. Jacobs to work something out with him so he'd
What
pay
would he
this
say?
bill. Oh, I'm going to pay you the money. I'm going to pay you the money. And then the next thing I know, I wouldn't hear
Let
from
me
him.
hear from you, sir.
We put on a great big show for her to get her out of my house. I even had the police department come
So
and
you all
remove
were
her
faking
from my
like you
home.
were cooking up crystal meth, and you
there
were
was
faking like
there was
you
no
were
actual
shooting it up.
cooking. There was no actual cooking, no dope at that house period because the police was there.
What
I had to have her physically.
You're a liar. There was no
What were
police
you all
there.
pretending to do then?
We staged the threatening of people to get her to feel unsecure of being there by my buddy putting a
You
gun
ain't
there.
saying nothing, sir. Tell me about the bill, sir.
Well, Your Honor, when she moved out, she had no transportation. And I said, here's what I'll do for you. If you do, I'll give you this scooter. If you leave the phone on and call that payment for the phone bill.
Scooter?
Yeah, a scooter. She had no transportation.
You talking about the little
She
thing?
had no transportation.
That was a lie.
And I don't think this woman want a scooter.
That's what she was riding. That's what she was riding, Your Honor.
Yeah.
That was your form of transportation?
That's what he got for me after he took my car after it was wrecked and said it was unsafe to drive.
So did you ever
Then he
agree to
wanted
pay her
buy
for
me
the
another
phone bill?
one.
No, I gave her the scooter.
You never agreed to pay for the phone bill.
I gave her the scooter.
Why
in
do you
lieu
keep
of anything.
saying that? I heard you the first time. When you keep saying that, that gives me the impression that you believe you paid your debt. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I didn't agree. I didn't agree.
Well, so why'd you give her a scooter then?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Right, I know
just-
you don't. I do, because you believe it has something to do with it. I believe that you attempted to give her a scooter in exchange for the phone bill, or you attempted to convince me of that, but unfortunately, you didn't. I believe her. I believe that you were a dope fiend. $180 judgment for the plaintiff.
I can't stand him. I hate his guts. I'm just glad it's over.
I just hope that she gets a life and I can send her my own obituary so that she can get over me.
I'm already over you, believe me.